On December 21st, 6 Ukrainian UAVs attacked residential buildings in Kazan, Russia, while a seventh targeted an industrial zone. Footage captured the moment a UAV struck a high-rise glass building. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, several UAVs were shot down, while others were intercepted by electronic warfare. However, some argue that the Ukrainian drones crashing into high-rise buildings in Kazan were aimed at significant defense manufacturing complexes in the city, home to aviation and helicopter production plants. In planning low-altitude UAV flights, it's suggested that Ukraine overlooked the high-rise buildings along their routes. This miscalculation led to the drones missing their intended targets in Kazan. At this time, hawkish factions are ramping up provocations ahead of Trump's inauguration. A series of arson attacks across Russia, the assassination of General Kirillov, followed by numerous attacks, hammers, and new drone strikes, especially the Kazan attack on December 21st, have escalated tensions. Russian media reports indicate 34 cases of arson and explosions over the past 10 days. The arsonists mainly targeted banks and police vehicles. Some attacks occurred at post offices, ATMs, and shopping centers. Russia suspects Ukrainian intelligence is behind these acts of sabotage. In reality, Ukrainian intelligence, along with MI6 or possibly the CIA, appears intent on spreading panic in Russian society. The recent sabotage, coupled with ground and aerial UAV attacks on military facilities and key economic targets deep within Russia, is aimed at creating an impression of Russia losing control on land, in the air, and at sea. The goal is to push Russia into a disadvantageous negotiating position in the next 1 to 2 months. Notably, this series of events in Russia occurred after CIA Director Burns visited Kyiv, potentially to deliver final instructions to the Zelensky administration. The objective is to generate negative perceptions around Russia's war efforts, ensuring Ukraine retains a strong negotiating position. The issue lies in recent signals from U.S. mainstream media suggesting that Trump might revert to the aggressive model of the Biden administration, indicating he intends to continue supplying weapons to Ukraine by late January, as mentioned in our previous video. This could be preemptive sabotage by the deep state controlling the media system. However, Trump has yet to deny this claim. He has strongly reacted to fake news about himself in the past, but his silence here is noteworthy. On December 22, President-elect Donald Trump indirectly refuted this by reiterating that he would end the Ukraine conflict and global wars. Simply put, wars would destroy his Make America Great Again MAGA agenda. One of the latest Republican moves is exposing the wastefulness and enrichment of the extreme left elite within the Democratic Party. On December 23, as per tradition, Republican Senator Rand Paul released the Festivus Report. This annual document humorously highlights what he considers wasteful federal government expenditures. This year, beyond frivolous spending like $12 million for a handball complex, $15 million for new furniture for unused federal offices, $873,000 for filmmaking in Jordan, and over $400,000 to study lonely mice, Senator Paul included significant expenditures related to the U.S. role in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The 2024 Festivus report revealed that, despite American taxpayers providing nearly $174 billion in aid and military assistance to Kyiv since the beginning of Russia's war in Ukraine, someone over at State thought it was a brilliant idea to drop an additional $4.8 million for KYV, Ukraine Public Affairs influencer staff. The Biden administration funded Ukrainian TikTok and Instagram users for $4.8 million. Senator Paul commented on this expenditure as follows: "Apparently, what we really need in a war zone are more Instagram stories and TikTok dances. The dangers here are more than just cringeworthy content. This kind of spending opens the door to disinformation, propaganda, and international PR disasters. And don't even get me started on the potential to escalate tensions with other nations." Paul proceeds to mock the funding's aim. After all, nothing says peacekeeping like a viral video. More Festivus airing of the grievances, but the absurdity doesn't end there. The State Department also splurged $15,220 on an influencer's event and another $22,231 on a USAID social media influencers campaign. From this, we can see that the billions of dollars the Biden administration has spent fueling this war have led to countless unnecessary losses of life. The hawkish factions in the U.S. State Department believe prolonging the war is so crucial that they have prioritized funding sure social media propagandists to spread misinformation. Senator Paul concluded that, at a time when Americans are scraping by, it's baffling to see our government burning through taxpayer dollars on what amounts to a glorified selfie fest. Paul surmises, "We need to remind the government that taxpayer dollars should be used to protect our nation's interests, not to fund the next viral sensation," the senator added. "Let's leave the Instagram fame to someone else and get back to serious diplomacy." The Biden administration's State Department remained silent. It is worth recalling that in September, U.S. Democratic prosecutors accused Russia of funding right-wing influencers in the U.S. to produce content favorable to the Kremlin. According to the Biden administration's perspective, anti-war views, calls for peace negotiations, or opposition to aid for Ukraine are all considered pro-Russian sentiments. While we won't delve deeply into this issue, Senator Paul's Republican report highlights a striking parallel Biden's White House is engaging in the very behavior it accuses the Kremlin of funding Ukrainian social media platforms to spread anti-Russian propaganda. As Senator Rand Paul aptly questioned, how many Americans feel comfortable knowing their tax dollars are being sent to Ukrainian TikTokers? This is a question we should not expect the Biden administration to answer. However, the public can anticipate a more transparent response from Trump's administration once in office. The world is closely watching Trump's statements and actions as his inauguration day approaches. Trump's objective: reclaiming the Panama Canal and Greenland from Chinese control. On December 22 and 23, Donald Trump issued consecutive warnings, stating that his new administration might attempt to regain control of the Panama Canal, which the U.S. foolishly ceded to its Central American ally. He argued that American shipping companies are being charged outrageous fees to use this crucial passage connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. He wrote, "The fees being charged by Panama are ridiculous, especially knowing the extraordinary generosity that has been bestowed to Panama by the U.S., adding, "This complete ripoff of our country will immediately stop." The Panama Canal is considered a vital national asset for the United States, due to its critical role in America's economy and national security. He further remarked, "If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to us, in full, and without question. To the officials of Panama, please be guided accordingly." Immediately following the above statement, Panamanian President José Raúl Mulino firmly rejected the idea, calling it an insult to his country's sovereignty. Trump's remarks were made during his first major rally since his victory on November 5. Speaking to Arizona supporters at the AmericaFest Forum, Trump vowed that his Dream Team cabinet would deliver an economic boom, secure U.S. borders, and swiftly resolve conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine. Trump also hinted that the Panama Canal risks falling into the wrong hands. Currently, China is the canal's second-largest user after the U.S. In reality, Trump's threat was more directed at China than the Panamanian government. He later issued a second statement, saying, "For purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity." With these statements, Trump seems intent on reshaping the rules-based order to favor the U.S., after China has quietly used the laws of the West to enrich itself and expand its influence, countering the U.S.'s superpower position. Regarding the Panama Canal, Trump's urgent objective is pushing back China's influence over this critical waterway, as he is concerned that Beijing could exploit it to cut off the U.S. from transoceanic shipping activities in the event of a Taiwan crisis. Trump may also want to pressure Panama to close illegal migration routes to the U.S. via the Darien Gap, a jungle area on the Panama-Colombia border that is frequently used by migrants seeking to reach the U.S. With his firm demands for Panama to adhere to U.S. principles, Trump signals that he will not tolerate unfair competition, especially from China, in controlling strategic maritime choke points or global natural resources. While the U.S. is working to rebuild its rare earth mineral mining and refining supply chain to detach from China, Greenland's vast mineral, graphite, and lithium reserves are certainly on the table. These resources are critical for producing electric vehicles, wind turbines, and power transmission lines. Greenland is also a crucial territory that Trump may want to acquire to ensure these supplies don't fall into Chinese monopoly control. Currently, Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark in the North Atlantic, and China is increasing its mining interests there. It's worth recalling that during Trump's first term in 2019, he confirmed efforts to purchase Greenland, calling it a big real estate deal. Previously, the U.S. had pursued acquiring the resource-rich island, including a $100 million offer in 1946. Thus, Trump's objective in Greenland may be similar to his goal for Panama. He wants to ensure that Chinese companies do not monopolize the island's critical mineral reserves and prevent Beijing from building dual-use infrastructure that could provide them with military and intelligence advantages. With minimal Danish oversight, China's control over sparsely populated Greenland is seen as very dangerous by Trump. Trump's threats toward the Panama Canal and his statements on Greenland indicate that his second-term administration will prioritize the Make America Great Again agenda in a way that reshapes geopolitical and geoeconomic dynamics. Even if Trump does not formally impose U.S. control over the Panama Canal and the autonomous island of Greenland, expelling China's influence from both regions and replacing it with U.S. economic influence may be enough for Trump's team to feel satisfied. This could also be Trump's way of consolidating his legacy and laying the groundwork for his successor, potentially Vice President J.D. Vance or someone else, who continues the policy of viewing China as America's #1 adversary. In his new term, Trump will likely do everything he can to expel China's influence from the Western Hemisphere, though it isn't clear what methods he will employ to reaffirm America's influence over the Panama Canal and Greenland. These two statements show that the Panama Canal and Greenland are two issues that Trump wants to address. Based on Trump's remarks on these two issues, his MAGA version to agenda is expected to be far more assertive and resolute in geopolitical and geoeconomic terms than MAGA version 1.